Hello YouTubers, Redneck Reloader here. I'm going to try to do a video this morning. I usually do during the daylight. I'm out here in my shed. I don't have electricity out here. I just run a cord out here when I need some light. And it's before daylight, so this might be a little dark, but hopefully you can see okay. This is going to be a product review on this thing I bought. I got this in the mail yesterday, and I've been out here playing with it. It's a Konos powder measure. Don't know anything about Konos. That's K-O-N-O-S. Looked for them online. Can't find any reference to them other than this powder measure. It came in a plain white box with no paperwork in it whatsoever. So no instructions or anything. I've never used a powder measure before. So I'm just kind of winging this. It was $15.95 with shipping and included. So I thought for 16 bucks I'll give it a shot. I bought it off of eBay. They also have them on Amazon. There was one review on Amazon, and that fella had a lot more experience than what I had with these things, because he was comparing them to other ones. So he gave a pretty good review. I don't remember exactly. I think it was 4 or 5. No, it wasn't 5 stars, but I think it was like 4. But I figured I'd give it a shot. So the way this works, for anybody who's not familiar with these, you take this cap off and put your powder in here, and this has an on and off. You can twist it. So if you twist it one way, it actually blocks off down here, so you can take this off and dump your powder out or whatever. Then you twist it back, and that opens it up and lets the powder drop down into here. This just pops right off, as does this unscrews and comes off the bottom. And excuse me. On this side is where the actual powder is metered. The powder just runs down into here, and then when you rotate it, this goes up, and the powder that's in here dumps out. Pretty simple. This comes with a bench mounted stand, and it actually includes the screws with it. There's 2 screws that hold it to the base, the stand I should say, and then the stand actually comes included with 3 wood screws. I've just got this screwed to an old piece of wood. It's this old shelf that we're not using, off of an old little cabinet. It works out pretty good. I'm not going to use this thing very often, I don't think. So I wanted it kind of mobile, so I can just sit it on the bench when I need it. But you could screw it right down to the bench. It's just cheap plastic for the most part. The gold pieces you see here are all aluminum. But it seems fairly well made for the price. There's no markings on it whatsoever. I don't think Konos is probably going to be in business for long. But it does work. There's a little, this is where you set it. There's some little micrometer markings on here. I don't think they're worth nothing. It's not how I would use it. This is a little lock ring right here, a little collar. You can unscrew that collar, and then you just screw this plastic plunger in and out to adjust what you're throwing, and then you can lock it down so it stays, and it seems to lock it pretty solidly. I haven't had any problems. I've probably thrown 100 drops with it here, and it's not loosened up or anything. This screws off. I'm not sure what the purpose of that is, what else you would do with this, but this is a little kind of inverted funnel for you to set your shell up in, so you don't drop powder all over the place when you throw. And it works pretty good. I've seen a few stray flakes here and there, but for the most part it keeps the powder where it's supposed to be. And it just fits up in here. Now, if you watch any of my other videos, you know when I load, I use the lead dipper. All I'm loading at this time is 45 ACP, and my load data, I can run between 5 and 7 grains of powder, and I usually try to load around 5.3, 5.4, and my lead dipper throws that just perfect. So I don't know if I'll use this very much or not. If I change loads, I start loading something else, I might. I have found it to be pretty repeatable for what I'm doing for plinking or target shooting. I'm not real critical with my target shooting because I am not that good of a shot. So I've loaded the 45 ACP anywhere from 5.2 grains up to about 5.7, and I haven't noticed any difference whatsoever in my accuracy. So I don't get that critical over the weight. I just want to make sure I don't go over the maximum. And I know for what I'm loading with the 230 grain ball ammo with unique powder, which is all I've ever used, and that's all I've used with this. I can go up to 7 grains, and as long as I'm not getting anywhere near that, I'm pretty comfortable. So this morning I set up my Lee Perfect powder scale, and I set it for 5.7 grains, and I've been sitting here for about the past hour. I'm just throwing powder drops and weighing them and seeing how they're coming out, and they have been pretty repeatable. I get the occasion one that's a little heavy, and what I did, this one is a bit heavy, but I just played with this. I might have knocked it out of adjustment, but the heaviest I've weighed was 6.3 grains. So I would say it's probably accurate plus or minus a half a grain, and that's pretty extreme. I've only had one or two that was that high. Most of them were pretty close. If they weren't dead on the mark, they were pretty close to it. So I'd feel comfortable using it the way I load, where I give myself plenty of leeway. I'm not real close on maximum or minimum powder charges, and if it varies by a half a grain, that's not going to affect. Maybe you see that one's a lot closer on there. I think I might have knocked it out of adjustment when I loosened that ring, because most of the ones I was throwing were pretty close. I would trust it. And the way you do this is a knurled aluminum knob that you twist. The ones I've seen online and stuff tend to have a lever. I prefer a lever to this knurled knob. This works fine, but you see that's pretty much dead on right there. The problem I have with that is this is kind of stiff, this plastic. Maybe if I use it for a while it might loosen up a little bit, but the initial part of the turn is fairly easy, but when you get to about here it gets kind of stiff, and you can just feel that plastic dragging on each other, and it takes a little bit more force to turn it. I would say if I sat here and threw 100 drops, or loaded 100 rounds, my fingertips might get a little sore from squeezing that knurling so hard to turn that. But I'd say that'll loosen up a little bit. I could probably take it apart and hit it with a little fine grit sandpaper or something and relieve that a little bit. It would probably be smoother, but I'm not that bothered with it. It's not that hard. That's the only fault I really have with it. So I guess I probably focus on that more than what I should. For 15, 16 bucks, I don't think you can beat it. It does what it's supposed to do. It throws powder and throws it fairly reliably. Considering that there is absolutely no paperwork from Konos, there's no warranty, so I guess it meets their guarantee standard of accuracy, because there ain't none. But if you're looking for, if you're like me, just getting into reloading and don't have a lot of extra money to pay for some of this other stuff, and if you want a powder thrower, then I'd say this is worth the money for what you're going to get, because you can load. I'd feel comfortable if I was going to sit here and load 100 rounds. I'd feel comfortable using this as long as I wasn't loading up to the max or even close to the max. But as I said, when I load, I don't do that anyway. If I was to be loading up close to the max, I would undoubtedly be weighing every single charge anyway. I wouldn't even use my lead dippers for this. So I just kind of compare this to my lead dipper, and I'd put it right in the same category as far as accuracy of throwing. I can throw my lead dipper, and like I said, if I'm loading for 5.3, I'll be hitting 5.3 to 5.4 pretty reliably with it. And I'd say this will be right in the same ballpark. I certainly don't see it very more in the grain. One thing I've noticed, and I don't know if they're all like this or not, maybe I'm just a little nitpicky about it, but you do get a little few stray flakes of powder every once in a while. And I just kind of knock them back in the cup every now and again. It's not much, but I mean, if you loaded 100 rounds, you might have enough there for an extra round that you've lost. It seems to be coming, it's not leaking, it just seems to be when I put that underneath it, maybe lose a little grain here or there beside of it. Maybe I'm just not pushing it up against it hard enough or something. But I kind of get that with the lead dipper sometimes too. I think it's just static. I don't know if all powders are like that, because as I said, all I've ever worked with is unique, but where it's that flake powder, sometimes I'll put my lead dipper in it and you'll have a few little flakes. Now see, that's a little heavy, and I've got it set for 5.7. A few of these I've gotten heavy like this, and I've knocked the slider loose and adjusted it to actually find out what the weight is, and that's probably a little over 6. I've had it, if it gets way up here close to the top, I've weighed those and they've been like 6.3. So where that's hovering, they're a little bit high. That's probably 6.1, maybe 6. So it's a little heavy, but a little more than what I've got it set at 5.7. But that's okay with me. You'd have to decide if that would be okay for you or not. But like I said, for $15.95, and there's no guarantee of accuracy, I think it's pretty good. But anyway, that's about all to be said about it. There's not much to it. It's a pretty simple little device. If you judge for yourself, if you've been, I'm assuming if you're watching this, you've seen them and maybe thought about getting one. I don't think they're going to be around for long. Like I said, Konos doesn't seem like a company that's got any kind of online presence or anything. I'm sure it's just some factory in China that's decided to spit these out. I can't guarantee it's made in China because there's no stamping on it that says where it's made. So somebody's probably bought a container load of these things and they're just selling them, and when they're gone, you probably never see them again. So if you're interested in one, I'd probably, for 15 or 16 bucks, and if you got the extra money, I might go ahead and snap one up. I don't think it's going to last for years and years and years, but if you're just getting started out and you don't have anything else, it might be a good tool for you. I said it'll have a place here on my reloading bench, not a permanent place, but I will use it, I'm sure. I've been playing around with some different loads and been playing around with loading just a little bit heavier, and as I said, my lead dipper will go throw 5.3, 5.4, and then my next step up in dippers is too big. It would throw too much. So I've been playing around with increasing a little bit more, 5.7, 5.8, and just checking the performance and seeing if I like it any better. And I don't want to have to weigh every single load. So I think I'll use this. That's why I have it set for 5.7, and I'm playing with it this morning. I just want to see how it's going to run. Make sure that I'm not going to throw anything wildly heavy. One thing I will say about it, it's never thrown a light load. I've not seen one that came up light out of probably 100 throws or more here. If anything, it tends to go a little bit heavy. So if I wanted to, I could probably adjust it more for 5.5, and I don't think it would ever go up to 6 then. But you're not going to get any light loads with it. So I'd just say, if you're concerned about keeping that range tight, for example, if I wanted to load between 5.5 and 5.7, I don't think I would set it for 5.6. I think I'd probably set it for 5.5. Like I said, I've never seen one come up light yet. So that's about all I've got to say on it. So God bless you all. Thanks for watching.